Good afternoon, committee. My name's Dave Hammond from Hammond Tractor Company. We're a three-store John Deere Kubota dealer. We have locations in Union, Auburn, and Fairfield, Maine. We employ about 100 folks that work with us. Here to oppose the 1977, LD 1977. There's multiple things to talk about here, to be quite honest. One of the things we've talked a lot about cell phones, we've talked about computers. The language of the bill, one of the big things for us, we have 15 or 20 different people here in the equipment world that own dealerships, work for dealerships, from construction companies to tractor dealerships. And it's nice to see some marine folks here today too. You know, what is a motor vehicle? I think that's part of the issue here. We talk about cell phones and computers, but you know, a motor vehicle and the definition of it, there's so many different variables of that. You know, is a standby generator that's out that runs the power when the lights go out, is that a motor vehicle? Right now it appears that this bill is more drafted for the electronics world. It shouldn't be anything to do with tractors or construction equipment or any aspect of that.
Now, see, here I disagree. I disagree with his assertion that this should have nothing to do with tractors and farming gear, because when I was lobbying on behalf of Right to Repair in Nebraska, several of the people that showed up in favor of the bill were farmers, were people that work on farm equipment on a regular basis and make their money from farming and don't like the system as it currently exists. Further, the Nebraska Farm Bureau, as I mentioned, supported the legislation 176-1. If the Nebraska Farm Bureau, which I imagine has something to do with farming, is in favor of this legislation 176-1, then maybe, just maybe, we are actually onto something.
And the reason for that is this. If you look at the bill and how it's written, the right to repair is a touchy subject because a lot of us dealers sit back and say, we really almost don't want, in essence, people possibly working on our equipment.
Bam! You heard it right there. I'm a dealer, and honestly, if we're really, between us, we really don't even want people working on our stuff. Of course you don't! What car dealership wants someone to fix their own car rather than bring it back to the dealer? And what tractor dealer is going to want people to fix their own tractor rather than go back to the dealer? Of course, at least you're being honest. He said the part out loud that he's not supposed to say out loud. Of course they don't want you working on it. I wonder why.
But that's not what this bill is talking about. It's talking about working on the embedded software of the actual piece of equipment. That is actually the program within the tractor, within the excavator, within the diesel generator that runs the power. It's the software end of it. If you start messing with software and embedded electronics within a machine, you have all kinds of concerns. You have safety concerns. In essence, you have environmental concerns. I've heard people talk today about all the cell phones that go in the garbage, and we have environmental concerns. If you start allowing people to change embedded software within our industry, from marine to boating to tractors to construction, you're in essence going to have environmental concerns. Your safety is a big one. I mean, in essence, basically, parts of this bill speaks to the point of changing software and embedded software, which could allow potential people to take a 200 horsepower tractor and make it a 300 horsepower tractor. Of course, it's not designed to be a 300 horsepower tractor. It's designed to be a 200 horsepower tractor. At the end of the day, if you're gonna turn a tractor that's 200 horsepower into a 300 horsepower tractor, you're gonna have a safety concern. It's gonna blow more diesel exhaust out the exhaust that it's not designed for.
As I've said many times, I live in Brooklyn. I've lived here all my life. There's a saying, a tree grows in Brooklyn. I'm not a farmer. I've never grew up on a farm. I've never lived on a farm. I've never been inside of or maintained a tractor. I don't know anything about farming. However, I know a lot about bullshit. And this here is bullshit. And I'd like to explain why. When I visited Nebraska, there was a gentleman named Kenny that was lobbying with me, and he showed up to breakfast with me, and he was telling me a couple of stories. And one of the issues that he was having was that even if you do manage to fix something on some of these newer devices, you can actually do the repair, fix the electrical problem, but then after you fix that, someone has to show up and plug in their computer and do something with the code, something like that. I'm not fully 100%, I don't remember exactly, it was 3 years ago, in order for it to work. So after you fix it, even if it is fixed, the machine is not going to work properly until an authorized dealer plugs it in and says, yep, everything's good to go. And this is a problem because A, it can take time to do that. If you need to get this crop harvested and the time to do this is right effing now, tomorrow for the dealer to show up, doesn't matter. It's kind of like when people say when seconds count, the police are always minutes away. It's that kind of thing. And also that they're going to be charging you for that when you don't need them to charge you for that. That is the actual concern here. The farmers are not trying to grow a cottage industry of overclocking their tractors. They're not trying to pretend that they're Formula One racers. It's not like the corn guy is trying to race the avocado guy at the end of the day to try and win a bet. That's not what they're doing. They want to repair their tractor so that it works again. And you put in locks in the software so that when they try to fix it, it doesn't work properly until they call the dealer. That's why they care about this embedded software. And you have that embedded software in there and locked in that way so that they can't fix their own tractor, so that when they actually ask for access to it, you get to say, oh, well, that will give you access to the emissions and the horsepower and the blah, blah, blah. You're trying to make it sound like the farmers are actually interested in screwing with the safety of the device and messing with it and messing with emission standards so that they can contribute to environmental waste and climate change. I'm offended on behalf of the farmers for the fact that you think so little of them, that you think that that's the reason that they're actually here today. No, they're here because they want to be able to fix their tractor, not race their tractor. The farmers that I met are not interested in hacking their tractors so that mine goes faster than my neighbor's. That's not what they're trying to do. Nor are they trying to change emission standards or make climate change worse or safety dangers. They simply want to get the machine to work. And you started building them recently in a way where after the farmer tries to fix their own tractor, even if they actually complete the repair properly, it won't work until a dealer plugs something in. And that is very similar to what goes on in our current industry. Even if I can actually take the chip off of this board and put it onto that one, it's not going to work until it's reprogrammed in a certain way, and I don't have access to that. And while I may not be a farmer, I may not be someone who understands tractors or automotive gear, I do understand bullshit. And this is an area where I really, really wish that more farmers showed up. Because at this hearing, 2 people were there that signed in on the sheet in favor of the bill. A consumer that works at a hospital that just so happened to start watching my videos 2 weeks ago, who worked on his own stereo, and me, a person that fixes MacBooks. I can come up with excellent arguments in my industry as to why the talking points are BS. I can bring up the specific problems and cite them very clearly. But when it comes to farm equipment, that's not my industry. I'm not going to be as confident speaking about your industry as you are if you are a farmer or someone who works in tractor maintenance. That's where I need your help. I need you to show up at these hearings, and I need you to be able to refute the bullshit that they're going to say, because you're an expert and you're going to do it better than me. But if you'd like me to be able to do a better job than I did here, please leave comments in the description below. Tell me what the problems are. Tell me why it is that what he said is not true. Tell me why what he said is fear-mongering BS, so that I can be a better advocate for you. I realize that you don't have the time to show up around all these hearings all around the country and debunk lobbyist and dealer bullcrap. You're too busy for that. You're busy out there growing food and doing everything that's actually necessary for us to have a properly running economy. But I am making the time for that, and I'm more than happy to advocate on your behalf if you're happy to take a little bit of time out and educate me. My email is lewis@rossmangroup.com, and I would love to learn more so that I'm able to be a better advocate for you than I was here. One of the things I made sure to do here, I can say, is that the Nebraska Farm Bureau supports this bill 176-1. Now, when it comes to tractors, because I heard it mentioned, does this affect automobiles? Does this affect tractors? What you should know is that in Nebraska, the Nebraska Farm Bureau voted 176-1 in favor of supporting right to repair legislation. So whether or not this affects farms, you should know that A, farmers want a bill like this, B, they've been lobbying for it in Nebraska and Tennessee for years, and C, the Nebraska Farm Bureau is all standing behind you if you choose to sign this legislation. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer any concerns, and I'm here until tomorrow. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not a lobbyist either, but I'm good at playing pretend.
And then there's just so many variables about it. In general, I think you need to have definition of what a motor vehicle is, and then you also need to look at the safety and environmental impact by it. One of the things that I heard early in our testimony was people want to be able to have the right to repair their own piece of equipment. All right, well, at the end of the day, I know in the equipment world, on the farm equipment side, and I think it's mandated by January 21st, or not mandated, but January 1st, 2021, most equipment manufacturers are going to have access to supply consumers with devices that will allow them to do many of their own repairs. Currently, as a John Deere dealer now, we supply technical manuals in order for people to be able to repair their own equipment. We might not have the computer laptop for them to plug into it. Certain companies already have that. John Deere has it. They've had it for 18 months. So something was said earlier about you have to have a technician come out to program your tractor. Deere's had that out. It's called Customer Service Advisor. They have it. They can buy it. They can have a subscription to it. They can do a lot of that themselves already. So that's a misnomer that most Deere has it, and most companies are following, and by the end of this year they're going to have that available to consumers. So it's a safe way for customers to be able to help diagnose their problems on their equipment, and in essence, fix some of their own equipment. But it doesn't change the ability for them to limit any type of safety mechanism on the tractor. It doesn't allow them to change software that makes a tractor be able to go from 25 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour. It doesn't do any of that. It just helps them basically diagnose and be able to fix their tractor. That's one of the big things about this bill. It's written in a way you shouldn't be dealing with embedded software and being able to change that due to the safety concerns. And one of the things that I would encourage all of the committee, we have 3 locations, and most of my counterparts here that in essence have equipment dealerships from Fort Kent to southern Maine. We would enjoy having the committee come to any of our locations, and we can show you what we can provide to customers to help them fix their own tractors or construction equipment or anything that really has a diesel engine, gas engine, what have you. But the bill is written more for the electronics and cell phones and computer industry. It should not have anything to do with what we do for forestry equipment, construction, and farm equipment. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hammond. Do I have any questions from the committee? Representative Moriarty?
Mr. Hammond, I have one question. You just referred to a mandate effective at the end of the current year. Where does that come from?
I don't think it was a mandate. I think basically, and I apologize for saying that earlier, the equipment suppliers, Case, New Holland, John Deere, much of these folks got together because there's this growing concern about having the right to repair. So all of these manufacturers basically have agreed to offer this to the public. So I don't believe it was mandated. I think they all agreed, and they all, as a collective group, agreed that by the first day of January 2021, they would have the ability to sell the tooling and the training to consumers that want that. Of course, they're going to have to pay for it, just like anybody would.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, members of the committee.
I'm sure there are certain parts here where you're thinking to yourself, I really wish I could have been there to correct that. I really wish I could have been there to give those senators a better idea as to why it is I want right to repair and why what they said is not true or not going to happen. And one thing that I really hope that you'll do is you'll show up at these hearings. There were nobody there in support of farmers. There were no farmers there at that hearing, even though I know that farmers are interested in this, given the Nebraska Farm Bureau's 176-1 vote in favor of right to repair. If you're unable to make it because you're busy running a business and you're busy harvesting your crops and you're busy doing the work that you need to do to ensure that I have food on the table, I know it's going to suck and I know it's probably aggravating, but if you can try and walk through and educate someone who was born in Brooklyn, who's never been on a farm before, as to how to be your advocate, tell me what I need to know. Tell me why it is what he said was wrong. Tell me why what he said is misrepresenting what you want the right to repair bill for. Tell me what your problems are. What are the specific problems? How is it that the company made these problems worse? How is the company ignoring you when it comes to fixing these problems? And what would you do if this bill was passed? Let me know so that I can be a better advocate for you. As I said, I'm not a farmer. I grew up in Brooklyn. I've never seen a tractor or been on one in my life, but what I can say is that me being educated on how to be an advocate for you is going to be much better than if there's no advocate at all. Because at this Olympia, Washington hearing, as well as this hearing in Maine, there were nobody there representing farmers. But if I'm there and I have enough background from everything that you can teach or impart onto me, then I can be an advocate for you and make sure that I lobby in favor of your interests, even if you're not able to take the time to do so or pay for someone to do so. I want to be your advocate. Please help educate me so that I can be a better advocate for you. Thank you very much, and as always, I hope you learned something. And hopefully I get some emails at lewis@rossmangroup.com from some farmers so that also I can learn something. I'll see you in the next video.